Hey everyone, you're watching Drive District. What reliable car can you actually buy in 2026 if you have between $15,000 and $20,000? A car that won't turn your bank account into a repair fund? A car that can handle daily driving, long trips, traffic jams, and high mileage without constantly asking for money. Because let's be honest, buying a used car in 2026 is not as simple as it used to be. Modern engines have become more complicated, transmissions have more gears, turbochargers are everywhere, and some manufacturers seem to believe that an engine should survive exactly until the end of the warranty period. But there are still cars that were engineered with one simple idea: build it properly and let it run. So today, I've put together 10 reliable cars that you can realistically find in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. And I'm not just going to name the models. I'll tell you which engines to look for, which versions are better, and what you should pay attention to before handing over your money. Let's get started. Number 10. Toyota Corolla. Let's start with something simple, the Toyota Corolla. And yes, I know, it isn't the most exciting car in the world. It won't make your neighbors jealous. But that's exactly the point. The Corolla was never designed to impress your neighbors. It was designed to start every morning. For our budget, the 2020 to 2021 Corolla is one of the most interesting choices. A 2021 Corolla currently has a typical used asking range of roughly $16,000 to $20,000, depending heavily on mileage, trim, and location. And under the hood, things are refreshingly simple. The 2.0-liter dynamic force engine in many newer versions is naturally aspirated. No giant turbocharger, no complicated high-performance setup, no attempt to squeeze 300 horsepower out of a tiny engine, just a relatively simple four-cylinder designed to do its job. The Corolla also has a CVT. And yes, I know what you're thinking. CVT? Reliable? Toyota CVTs can actually be quite durable when properly maintained. The important thing is to find a car with a clean history and no evidence of abuse. If you want transportation rather than entertainment, the Corolla is extremely difficult to argue with. It's boring, and in the used car market, boring can be a very good thing. Number 9. Honda Civic. At number 9, we have another Japanese classic, the Honda Civic. For this budget, the 2021 Civic is particularly interesting. Kelley Blue Book currently puts the fair purchase price for a 2021 Civic LX around $17,500, with Sport and EX versions generally fitting into the upper part of our budget. The Civic gives you something the Corolla doesn't always provide. It's actually fun to drive. The steering is good, the suspension is well balanced, and the interior is practical. But the most important thing is what sits underneath. The 2.0-liter naturally aspirated engine is the version I would personally prefer if maximum simplicity is the goal. The 1.5-liter turbo is also capable of high mileage, but if your priority is long-term ownership rather than performance, naturally aspirated is still the conservative choice. And that's exactly what we want in this video. Less complexity, fewer expensive components, and fewer opportunities for something to go wrong. A well-maintained Civic can easily become one of those cars you eventually get tired of owning simply because nothing ever breaks. And that's actually a compliment. Number 8. Mazda 3. Number 8 is for people who don't want a boring car. Meet the Mazda 3. The 2020 Mazda 3 is already available well below our $20,000 ceiling, with many versions sitting comfortably inside the budget. And this car has something unusual. It is reliable, but it doesn't feel like an appliance. The naturally aspirated 2.5-liter Skyactiv G is the engine I'd look for. It's relatively simple, doesn't rely on a turbocharger, and has a very good reputation when maintained properly. The automatic transmission is also conventional rather than a CVT, and that combination is exactly what I like in a used car. Naturally aspirated engine, traditional automatic, reasonable power, and no unnecessary engineering circus. The Mazda 3 also drives much better than you might expect. It feels more expensive than it actually is. The interior is good, the chassis is excellent, and the car is still practical enough for everyday life. The downside? It's not as spacious as a Toyota Camry or Honda Accord. But if you want something reliable that you can actually enjoy driving, the Mazda 3 deserves a place on this list. Number 7. Toyota Prius. Now let's talk about something that scares some people unnecessarily, the Toyota Prius. A hybrid. Yes, a hybrid. And if you're buying a Prius because you want to save money on fuel, this is one of the best choices in this price range. A 2021 Prius can be found around the $18,000 to $20,000 range, depending on trim and condition. KBB currently lists fair purchase prices around $18,000 to $19,000 for several mainstream trims, and the fuel economy is ridiculous. We're talking roughly 50 plus miles per gallon combined. The powertrain is not particularly powerful, but that's not what it's designed for. The Prius uses Toyota's hybrid system with a 1.8-liter gasoline engine and an electronically controlled continuously variable transmission. And here's the interesting part. There is no conventional automatic transmission with dozens of clutches and complicated gear sets. The hybrid system is mechanically quite different. If the battery and hybrid system have been properly maintained, these cars can rack up serious mileage. Of course, there is one thing you absolutely must check: the condition of the hybrid battery. Don't buy a Prius simply because it's cheap. Have the battery system inspected. But if everything checks out, a 2021 Prius for under $20,000 can be an extremely economical daily driver. Number 6. Honda Accord. Now we're moving into a bigger class, the Honda Accord. If you need more space than a Civic but don't want an SUV, the Accord is one of the first cars I'd look at. A clean 2020 Accord can sometimes fit our budget, especially in the LX and EX versions. Current used market data puts many 2020 examples around the $18,000 to $23,000 range, with the lower trims providing the best chance of staying under $20,000. And the Accord is one of those cars that can do almost everything. Commuting? Yes. Long distance driving? Absolutely. Family car? No problem. And unlike many crossovers, it still drives like a proper sedan. For reliability, I'd pay close attention to maintenance history. The 1.5-liter turbo can be economical, but if you're buying a used car specifically for long-term ownership, you want a car that has been serviced correctly and hasn't been abused. The Accord isn't necessarily the cheapest car on this list, but it gives you something the Corolla can't: more space, more power, more comfort, and still a very reasonable chance of reaching high mileage without catastrophic repairs. Number 5. Mazda CX-5. Now we're halfway through the list, and at number 5, we have one of my favorite used SUVs, the Mazda CX-5. A 2020 CX-5 can fit into our price range, especially in the lower and middle trims. Current market data shows many examples around $18,000 to $22,000, with mileage making a huge difference. And here's what makes the CX-5 interesting. It's not an oversized SUV. It's not ridiculously complicated, and it doesn't try to be a sports car. The naturally aspirated 2.5-liter Skyactiv G is the engine I'd look for if reliability is the priority. Again, no turbo. That's important. The turbocharged version is more powerful, but when I'm spending my own $20,000 on a used car, I would rather have fewer expensive components under the hood. The CX-5 also uses a conventional 6-speed automatic, and that's a combination I really like for a used vehicle. Naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, traditional automatic, reasonable weight, and a relatively simple drivetrain. The CX-5 also has one of the better interiors in this price range. So if you want an SUV without turning your purchase into a financial experiment, this is one of the cars I'd seriously consider. Number 4. Honda CR-V. At number 4, we have the Honda CR-V, and this is where practicality becomes the main argument. The 2019 CR-V is particularly interesting because it has now depreciated into our price range. Kelley Blue Book currently puts the fair purchase price of a 2019 CR-V LX around $18,000 to $18,650, while EX versions are around $19,500. So you can get a relatively modern SUV without spending $25,000 or $30,000. The CR-V is comfortable, spacious, economical, and easy to live with. The 1.5-liter turbo engine has more complexity than the naturally aspirated engines we've already discussed. So maintenance history becomes especially important. And that's the rule for this entire video. Don't just buy the model, buy the example. A perfectly maintained CR-V with 100,000 miles can be a much better purchase than a neglected example with 60,000. Check the service history. Check the oil change intervals. Check the transmission. Check for accident damage. And of course, get a pre-purchase inspection. Do that, and the CR-V can be one of the most sensible $15,000 to $20,000 SUVs you can buy. Number 3. Toyota RAV4. Now we're getting serious. Number 3 is the Toyota RAV4. The 2019 RAV4 is especially interesting because it's the first model year of the 5th generation RAV4. KBB currently puts a 2019 RAV4 LE around $20,000 for fair purchase price, although actual prices vary significantly by mileage, trim, location, and condition. And this is exactly the kind of car that makes sense for a long-term owner. The 2.5-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder is not trying to break speed records. But it doesn't have to. It provides enough power, reasonable fuel economy, and a drivetrain designed with durability in mind. The RAV4 also gives you something many sedans can't: ground clearance, cargo space, available all-wheel drive, and the ability to handle everyday family life. There is one problem: good RAV4s are expensive. Toyota knows people want them, dealers know people want them, and owners know people want them. So don't assume every RAV4 under $20,000 is a bargain. Some are cheap because they have high mileage, others may have accident history, and some have simply been neglected. But find a clean example with good maintenance history and you're buying one of the strongest all-around packages on this list. Number 2. Lexus ES350. Now we're going to do something interesting. We're buying luxury without buying luxury car problems. Number 2 is the Lexus ES350. Specifically, I'm looking at the 2018 model. And yes, you can actually find these cars in our budget. Current KBB figures put a 2018 ES350 around $19,500 for private party value, with fair purchase price around $20,900 depending on the market. And this is one of my favorite combinations. Toyota engineering, Lexus comfort. A naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 and a conventional 6-speed automatic. No tiny turbo engine, no complicated European drivetrain, no attempt to make a luxury sedan produce supercar numbers, just a smooth V6 and a comfortable transmission. The ES is basically the car for someone who wants a Lexus but doesn't want to pay Lexus money. Of course, there are things to check: suspension components, oil leaks, cooling system, electronics, and the condition of the interior. But mechanically, this is one of the cars on this list that I'd be very comfortable buying with higher mileage, assuming the car has been properly maintained. And that's why it takes second place. Number 1. Toyota Camry. And now, the number 1 car in my ranking, the Toyota Camry. Yes, another Toyota. But there is a reason. The Camry has spent decades building a reputation for being one of the safest bets in the used car market. For our budget, I'd look at the 2018 to 2021 generation. A 2021 Camry can sometimes be found around the $20,000 mark, particularly with higher mileage and lower trims. KBB currently lists a 2021 Camry LE around $19,500 fair purchase price, while other trims move above our budget. And if I were buying one for maximum long-term reliability, I'd keep things simple. Naturally aspirated engine, regular maintenance, no unnecessary modifications, and a complete service history. The Camry gives you space, comfort, decent fuel economy, and a drivetrain that isn't trying to reinvent the automobile. And that's exactly why it wins this ranking. Because when you're spending $15,000 to $20,000 on a used car, you're not really buying a car. You're buying the previous owner's maintenance history. Remember that. The badge doesn't matter if the previous owner changed the oil every 25,000 miles. The mileage doesn't matter as much if the car has been maintained properly. And the $19,000 car can become a $25,000 car very quickly if you discover a transmission problem, neglected cooling system, worn suspension, and a history of accidents. So before buying any of these cars, check the VIN, inspect the body, scan the electronics, check the fluids, and get a proper pre-purchase inspection. Never spend the entire $20,000 on the car itself. Keep some money aside for maintenance. Because even the most reliable car in the world still needs brakes, tires, fluids, filters, suspension components, and regular service. So here's my final list: Toyota Corolla, Honda Civic, Mazda 3, Toyota Prius, Honda Accord, Mazda CX-5, Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, Lexus ES350, and number 1, Toyota Camry. But now I want to hear from you. Which car would you buy with $15,000 to $20,000 in 2026? Would you choose a Toyota, a Honda, a Mazda, or would you go for something completely different? Write your choice in the comments. And if you want to know everything about cars, engines, transmissions, and parts, make sure you subscribe to Drive District. Hit the like button, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.